So this past weekend, I went to the movies and saw Infinity War, the Avengers movie, with my daughter, and and she's a little bit crazy about the Avengers, and so it was. I don't know anything about the Avengers. Before going to this movie, I'd never seen at least not an entire Avengers movie before, and so this was one of my first Avenger experiences, and and it was pretty cool because right off the bat, there was in one of the opening scenes, I noticed something that really stood out to me that really applies to working with WordPress. And no spoilers, no spoilers. I'm not gonna, ruin the movie for if you haven't already seen it. But there's this scene in the beginning of the movie where Thanos, who's like the major bad guy, and Loki, who is of questionable status, I suppose, are they're talking back and forth, and part of the conversation is Thanos, kind of like the main supreme bad guy, says, he asks Loki, says, if you consider failure experience, and then Loki says, I consider experience. And so and when I heard that, it right away it tipped me off to something that's really, really critical about what we talk about here in this double stack program. So before we get too deep into it, thanks for joining the group. Thanks for being part of all of this. And if you want to keep getting these notifications so you see when these live videos show up, go ahead and click that notifications button. And if you want to get email updates about all this stuff, you can sign up for the email list over at doublestack.net. And we email out video replays and other things as well. So when back to this to the Avengers. So when Loki said, I consider experience, the thing that occurred to me was, I go to a lot of WordCamps, and I talk at a lot of WordCamps. I went to WooConf, I gave a presentation there. So I'm pretty deeply into the WordPress community and have been for quite some time now. And kind of the format of almost all the presentations at WordCamps is somebody gets up and talks about their experience and says, here's what I'm doing that's working out really great. Here's what I used to do that wasn't so good. Here's how I made it better. And it's all about people having learned from their experience, including what what Thanos might call failures, Loki calls experience. And that's totally true. I mean, how many times have you ever tried to do something and gotten the best idea right off the bat? It's like it never works that way. In fact, we joke around here, Joey and me and whoever, the folks at Cart 66, we joke about, okay, this time we're going to do the best idea first. And it just never turns out to be that way, because even if you start out with a great idea, as you get more experience working with it, as you make more progress, your good idea gets even better. You say, okay, here's things that we ought to be doing in addition to what we even thought, or bad ideas, they get weeded out ahead of time. And so, grit basically is what it's all about. Perseverance and experience really pushes you forward. And the WordPress community is filled with people like this. And that's one of the reasons it's so exciting to go to WordPress, to like WordPress meetup groups and WordCamps. And if you haven't had a chance to go to a WordCamp yet, I'd like to encourage you to do it, because there's tons of great people that you'll meet there. And even if you don't consider yourself to be like a WordPress guru or anything like that, you can still apply to be even a speaker and talk about what you're doing that works, and what you're learning, and help other people kind of follow in your footsteps and learn as well. So so the thing that's so cool about the WordPress community is it's filled with people that learn from experience, that pick things up on their own. They don't, they're resourceful and creative, and you start talking to people and you're like, man, I never would have thought of that. And so it's a really cool experience to be able to connect with folks like that. And but I also know that it's not the only way to learn things. And if experience is your only teacher, then it's a really slow and uncertain process. So the point of this video today is I wanted to talk about the two really critical things that it takes to actually excel in your field. And one of them is learning from your experience. Don't let failures shut you down. We're talking about stamina, perseverance, and grit. And that's what it means to learn from your experience, because you're going to have problems. You're going to have failures. You're going to have frustration. You're going to be like, man, I just can't figure this out. And if you just keep at it, you push through those barriers and you get through them. And that's what, that's why Loki says experience is experience. It doesn't matter if it's success. It doesn't matter if it's failure. It's experience. And that pushes you forward. But it's not the only thing that pushes you forward. And really, I don't think it should even be the primary thing that pushes you forward, because it's such a slow and uncertain path to success, because you're oftentimes stuck in your own ideas and you don't know what you don't know, right? There's two categories of things that I don't know. Like, I'll just speak for myself. There's things that I know that I don't know. Like, for example, I don't know how to speak French, but I know that French is there. I just don't know how to speak French. And so, I don't know how to fly an airplane. I know that other people can fly airplanes, but I don't know how to fly airplanes. And so there's a certain category of things that I know that I don't know. But then there's other things that I don't know. So they're like totally outside of your head. You just don't realize that those things even exist. And those are the things that experience is not going to put into your toolbox. You're not going to be able to grow by experience with those things that you don't know. And that's where mentoring or coaching or training or whatever it is that you want to call it, that's where that steps in. And if you don't believe it, then I have another movie to bring out the point. One of my favorite movies is Tombstone. And there's this scene, Tombstone's like this old Western movie, and Wyatt Earp and like these famous lawmen come in to try to tame this town called Tombstone, which is currently run by this outlaw gang called the Cowboys, and they identify themselves wearing these red sashes and everything. And somewhat near the beginning of the movie, there's this scene where Doc Holliday is standing in this bar room, so they're playing cards and stuff, and Doc Holliday's standing there with Wyatt Earp and his girlfriend and a bunch of people that are like the good guys, and then in come the Cowboys. And Doc Holliday meets this guy, Johnny Ringo. And throughout the entire movie, there's this tension between the two of them because they're very similar in character, but one of them is the good guy and the other one, Johnny Ringo, is the bad guy. And so when Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday first meet, Doc Holliday kind of goes on this sort of soliloquy or whatever, where he starts talking about how he doesn't know if he hates Johnny Ringo or not. And then he goes through a couple of iterations of what he thinks about him. And then eventually Johnny Ringo says, or he says to Johnny Ringo, yes, I actually do hate you. And then the whole scene changes a little bit, and everybody starts talking in Latin, or not everybody, but Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday start having this conversation in Latin. And basically, Wyatt Earp says, to Johnny Ringo, disregard everything Doc just said, he's drunk or whatever. And then Johnny Ringo and Doc start talking hey Rick, how's it going? Failure is not an option. Awesome having you as part of the Facebook Live group, man. Thanks for joining in. And so Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo are having this conversation, and then Wyatt Earp suggests that Doc is drunk and doesn't know what he's saying, and then Doc says in Latin that I speak the truth when I drink and things like that. And then as part of that conversation that happens in Latin, Johnny Ringo tells Doc, go ahead and do what you do best. And then Doc is like, he wants to have a gunfight with me, because both of them are supposed to be like the fastest gunslingers there ever were. And at one point, I think Doc Holliday says to Johnny, he's the fastest gunslinger since Wild Bill or whatever. And so they're kind of competing as like the two people that are like the best at shooting guns or whatever. And so then Doc says, drinking isn't what I do best. And then the next thing, Johnny Ringo says, he starts kind of pointing down, like kind of fiddling around with his revolver on his hip and everything. And he says that, that fools have to learn by experience, meaning that, if you don't believe that I'm the fastest gunslinger there is, then, I'll show you, but I'm going to end up killing you in the process. So you might as well just, learn from me teaching that to you, as opposed to having to learn by experience. And there's a lot of truth in that too. Not so much in the sense that, we're in the Old West or whatever, but if you can't allow someone else to teach you something, then that's going to be such a detriment to your overall experience with learning things. And so, part of experience, right, is being able to have mentoring. And I wanted to really underscore that in this video. And I know we talk a lot about business tips and how to restructure your business to make higher rates, and how to, do really cool stuff with e-commerce and email marketing and WordPress and all of these things. But the only way that you can really get to the top of your game is by allowing yourself to have a mentor, to seek out somebody to do some training, some coaching, whatever you want to call it, to seek out some people to be with, because that's going to give you new ideas that you've never had before. And it's going to expose you to information that you otherwise wouldn't be exposed to before. And if you think about it, everybody who's at the top of their game, everybody has some kind of trainer, some kind of a coach. Like, you don't just pick up a baseball bat and walk out into the major leagues, right? So we watch a lot of baseball here, and the Nationals are our favorite team. We follow the Nationals, and like Bryce Harper, who's like the best, batter or whatever there is on their team, he doesn't just pick up a bat and head out onto the field. I mean, he's got coaches and has been training with people that are awesome for like his whole life. Or like doctors and lawyers. I mean, they go to school for a long period of time and have all kinds of, mentors and internships and things like that, where they're with people, bringing them up into the kind of environment that they need to be in to really excel. And I personally, I have trainers and mentors. I've already, this year, I've invested well over $10,000 already in high quality training and coaching for myself. And every time I do it, it's a big decision. I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's easy to do. It's always a big decision. But it always has big payoff on the other side, because you just can't do it all on your own. And I'll tell you, the first time that I really noticed this, it was right when I first started with WordPress. I mean, it's probably been maybe 10 years ago or so. And I had a WordPress site, and it was going great. We had all this traffic going to it. We were selling stuff off it. Everything was great. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and update this theme. Now that we're doing better, let's go ahead and put some more work into the site. Let's do some awesome stuff to it. So I, put all this work into, revamping the site, fresh theme, fresh look, new, better organization, everything else. Launched the site, and literally like overnight, I lost like half or more of the traffic. It was like crazy. It's like, as soon as I launched the new site, it was like, what in the world? How have I wrecked this? And it wasn't like I installed an SSL certificate or whatever. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't change domains. I just like published a new theme, a new site or whatever. And all the pages, all the links were all the same. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was freaking out over this. And like for a couple of days, I was like panicking. And I was like working on the site the whole time to try, like, what am I doing? I'm trying to like look through my Google Analytics, and I went through like the search tools, the search engine tools, the webmaster tools or whatever that Google offers and all that stuff. I was doing everything I could, and I absolutely couldn't figure it out. And I was like, I have got to get help. And so I actually consulted with this guy that runs an SEO firm and stuff. And I was like, his name is Shell. I was like, Shell, man, I don't know what I did. I mean, I was crushing it with my website. I launched this update, and bang, it's terrible now. I've lost like all the traffic. What do I do? And so he gets on there and looks at it, and he's like, oh man, I don't know what to say, man. And so he's looking at like keywords and whether I got like blackballed from Google or whatever, and I didn't. And so he didn't know right up front either. And he said, well, I'll look into it, but I'll have to we'll have to get our WordPress experts into the mix and everything. It's going to cost like $3,000. And I was like, all right, I'll pay the $3,000. I've lost like all the traffic. I don't know what's happening. I'll pay what it is. And then, within just, I don't know, a couple hours or whatever, he gets back to me. Actually, I think it was the next morning. He gets back to me and he says, okay, we figured it out. We can't get all the traffic back right away, but we can stop the problem. And you know what the problem was? It was one checkbox. I don't know how it happened. I don't ever remember checking this, but if you go into settings in your WordPress admin, you go into settings and then reading, and then there's this search engine visibility check mark. That got checked, and and when you check it, it discourages search engines from indexing your site and sending traffic there and stuff. And I don't know what had happened, but like in my new theme, my new deployment or whatever, somehow that checkbox got checked, and I didn't know how to fix it. I mean, obviously, anybody can unclick a checkbox, so it wasn't the physical task of learning how to click or unclick a checkbox. It was knowing which checkbox to unclick. And that's the whole point of the mentoring. It's like, yeah, I mean, everybody can put together a WordPress website. Putting together a WordPress website is not hard. Doing it well and doing it right and actually using what you build to actually grow your own business or grow your client's business, that's the hard part. So it's not, I mean, anybody can click a checkbox. It's just knowing which checkbox to click. And that's where the mentoring comes in. And yeah, it took them what? I don't know. It probably somebody who knew what they were doing, you know, over at Shell's company, it probably took them what? Maybe, it might have been even the first thing they looked at. They could have probably fixed it in maybe 5 minutes, you know, log into the website, say, oh, you know, they're not getting traffic. Let's see if they're hiding themselves from search engines. Boom. That's what it was. But man, I spent like 3 days like poring over all the possible options it could possibly have been to wreck that traffic. And I couldn't do it. And that's where the experience, teach yourself, do it on your own. It's going to wreck you. If that's all you rely on, you can't get out of the hole. But if you don't have that, you can get all the mentoring you want, and that's not going to help you either. You've got to have both. You've got to have that persevering, go get it, stand up and grab it yourself, grit attitude that like tons of people in the WordPress community have, and it's really encouraging. But you also have to have the understanding that one person can't know all the things. And if you rely entirely on yourself to learn all the things, you can't do it. It's not going to work out. And that's one of the things that I see in the WordPress community that's really a weak point. There's so many people that just insist that I can do it all on my own and disregard the value of the training and the mentor relationship. And it's and that's a shame, because that's really going to hold you back. And so bottom line from this video, awesome if you're one of those people that loves to work with experience and learn from experience and considers failures successes because they teach you. Awesome if that's you. And if that's not you, then, you know, I would encourage you to kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try to do some stuff on your own. Try to teach yourself some things and really lay hold of, I mean, there's so much information and stuff that's available to you. But if you're one of the people who says, I can learn everything on my own, I don't need any other help, I don't need to talk to anybody else, then I'd like to encourage you to get out of that comfort zone and actually seek some people that are a little bit ahead of you. They don't have to be like, you know, super duper top of the line, you know, people, but anybody who's doing something that's a little bit ahead of where you are, that's somebody to connect with. And on top of that, you know, find like somebody who knows what to do in the area where you want to improve. And it doesn't have to be the case that the person is like a massive expert in all areas of life. But like, if you want to get better at like whatever it is, if you want to get better at e-commerce, find somebody who's awesome at e-commerce and can show you how to do it. If you want to get better at email marketing, find someone who can do that. You know, find experts in your area and follow them and train them, or not train them, but have them train you. And don't be afraid to pay them to do it. Like, hire coaches, you know, like it's something that is really lacking in the WordPress community. And I think that's one of the main things that's keeping everybody's rates down, is because WordPress is sort of seen as this, you know, I can get started with WordPress, but then, you know, it's just, that's kind of like a fast, low cost way to do things. And that's just not the case. WordPress can crush it. There's nothing the matter with the tools. I think I mentioned a couple days ago that I consult with the United States government in a couple of different areas, and they've got WordPress websites that get massive traffic, and it's all running on WordPress. And so the point is, find people that can teach you and train you, and have the go get it grit attitude to take the stuff that they teach you or that they're showing you and internalize it. Stand up, grab hold of it. You can do it. Like Rick just said, failure is not an option, but it is a teaching tool. So awesome, guys. Thanks for joining in on this. And if you know anybody who wants to get into the world of WordPress or has a business that's kind of based around WordPress, send them over to this group. Let's all get together and help everybody raise our rates and crush it with WordPress. So thanks for showing up, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. We do these Facebook Live videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much, guys.